Everybody, welcome to the press. Welcome to this week's PGA Tour event show. We're going to talk about the Valspar Championship down in the Tampa area in Florida, coming off a great Players Championship. Have to admit a couple of things going into this week. One, we didn't really nail the Players. The Players is a hard tournament to get right, to be honest with you. We got a great champion in Cam Young. I did not necessarily see Cam Young being the guy at the start of the week. Frankly, I didn't see Ludwig Oberg being the guy at the start of the week, even though both those guys have played well pretty recently. And we did say on the show, this is really a tournament more about players who are playing well right now. It's the best player currently. It's not fear or favor. It's, are you playing well? And the guys that had been playing well turned out to show up and play well very much. Fitzpatrick starting to show some signs. Certainly those two guys we mentioned. Sepp Straka had a great week. Corey Connors is great pretty much everywhere, so he kind of works. That's why he had a pretty good week. Victor Hovland had been playing pretty well, even though he likes the place. It was more that he's been playing well. So lots to kind of take away from that tournament. Don't be discouraged if you didn't have a good week. This week's a little bit different. My caution this week about the Valspar Championship, as we're getting into it, is this is not a good value week. I thought we had some pretty decent values last week in terms of players. Any time you have Scotty and Rory in the field, and both of them kind of wounded ducks in the moment, Rory more literally, Scotty more figuratively, you had value beneath that, right? You knew it was very unlikely that they were going to figure it out, find a way to win. So you had to go look elsewhere. You had some decent opportunities to find some players. This week, I don't think that's the case. In fact, I think the value stinks across the board, and I wouldn't begrudge you if you didn't bet it. And I'm very grateful that you watch or listen to the show, but I'm telling you up front, I think the value on this card stinks this week. So you either want to take some long shots or just don't bother. But we're going to go through it all, just like there is value, and you'll see what I mean. So this is the Valspar Championship played on the Copperhead course at Innisbrook Resort. The town is Palm Harbor, Florida. It's in the Tampa area. It's the exact same yardage golf course as last week, 73.52. Difference being this is a par 71. That's par 72 at the Players Stadium course. This is the Larry Packard Jam. Larry Packard lived to like 98 years old. Incredible guy. Didn't do a ton of designs, but this is obviously his standout. It's a $9.1 million purse this week. We do have about 19 of the world top 50 competing in the field this week. I think that's very good for a week after 2 weeks like we had. You had a signature event. You had the biggest event on the PGA Tour outside of the Tour Championship. And then next week, we're getting to this isn't the end of the Florida swing, right? You've got that event, the signature event at Trump Doral that comes along as well. So pretty good field, all things considered. $9.1 million. The purse this week, 1.638 to the winner, 500 FedEx Cup points to the champion. Looks like it's going to be just shy of 50 FedEx Cup points, 50 official World Golf ranking points to the winner this week. Take a look at the betting odds right out the gate. I mean, you can see the kind of problem, the value problem we're going to have here. Xander Schauffele's 12-1, and yeah, he's the horse for course play, but you're going to bet that guy 12-1? I dare you. I just can't make that case to you and say that's a good idea, even if he does win. If you're thinking about it for one and done purposes, I don't think that's a good play, right? You're not going to go after that guy because you've got to use him in a $20 or $25 million event. So you've got to be able to kind of be judicious about this. Matt Fitzpatrick, 14-1. Again, almost won the Players, but how do you kind of bounce back from the heartbreak of having it on your own racket and not getting the job done? Having it kind of taken away from you by a guy who is just more powerful and better than you, even though he's your friend in Cam Young and a TGL teammate, by the way. But that's a tough one to take. And you're expecting him to bounce back. That's a hard one. I think Victor Hovland, the 18-1 is probably a decent value. He is the defending champion. You do have guys who win this in pairs. Paul Casey did it. Sam Burns did it back to back. Make it happen. So I don't think that's out of the realm here. He has been playing well. This is a golf course about ball striking, even though it actually, really more than you think about it, is about putting. And the reason for course fits, and we'll get to this later, but this golf course has more of an emphasis on strokes gained putting than probably any course on the PGA Tour. And that sounds weird to say because it's a golf course about ball striking. Here's the trick. The putting surfaces here are so penalizing if you're a poor ball striker that you lose a lot of strokes on putting. If you're a good ball striker and you hit it pretty close, you get better chances at these very difficult putting surfaces to make putts. So fine line here between emphasizing putting. It's not really about putting. It's about ball striking. It just comes out in the wash like it's about putting. So you've got Akshay Bhatia at 20-1, Jacob Bridgman and Justin Thomas are 20-1. I don't hate any of those guys' picks. Bhatia been playing well, obviously. He just won a Siggy. So did Bridgman. He kind of fell apart under pressure a little bit at the Players, but that's to be expected. He's new to this stage. Justin Thomas played really, really well last week. I think he intentionally played Bay Hill to get the crap kicked out of him, kind of snap him into place, then go play this one. He's going to play here because obviously he loves this golf course, has contended here many, many a time. Patrick Cantlay's 25-1. I've seen Ben Coley pick him. Ben's great at this. I disagree with him here, but I understand where his rationale is. Corey Connors, Jordan Spieth, Brooks Koepka, all 25-1. Like, what planet are we on where those guys are 25-1? I know Spieth's been playing better. I know he's won here. I know he likes here. His driving's horrible. Like, that's such a big problem for him. Brooks Koepka's been playing much better. Of those guys, don't you think you would rather take Brooks Koepka 25-1? But just last week, he was like 60-1. And there aren't that many better players above him that aren't in this field this week. That doesn't make any sense. Again, the value problem. Ben Griffin and JJ Spawn, Nikolai Højgaard, Ryu Hisetsune, all 35-1. Rio played great at the Players. He's been playing great most of the year. Nikolai Højgaard, I think, could do very well here. This seems to be a place that has a little bit of international flavor to it. Sahith Theegala is 40-1. He's going to see a lot of action this week. He's been playing pretty well. Again, what you saw him at a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, you're not getting those numbers this week, and I don't necessarily like that. Nick Taylor is 45-1. Keegan Bradley, Taylor Pendrith is a kind of horse for course for this golf course. 50-1. Rasmus Højgaard's 50-1. Aaron Rise 50-1. He's a course fit. Austin Smotherman, you're going to hear his name a couple of times later on in the show. He's been playing really good golf. Showing up on leaderboards, playing well, played pretty well at the Players for his part. Wasn't really a factor in the end, but played well, I think. And I think this is the kind of golf course that can suit him. Davis Thompson's a course fit, 60-1. Matt McCarty fits everywhere. This kind of looks like Truckee, but Florida, for the now defunct Barracuda, where he won. I could get behind that. That was Ryan Gerard anyway, but Matt McCarty does play well on golf courses like this. Ricky Castillo, who just comes off the Puerto Rico win, is 65-1, along with Wyndham Clark. Pearson Coody just made a mess of things last couple of weeks. He's 70-1. Max McGreevy, Bud Cauley. I think Bud Cauley's kind of interesting. Christian Bezadenhoit's kind of interesting at 70-1. So let's pause on that. Take a look at the model top 10 for the week. Okay. So Xander Schauffele's number one, but not by a lot, as you can tell. 1.138 points versus 1.055 points for Akshay Bhatia. Fitzpatrick's close. Jordan Spieth is somehow fourth. Man, the numbers just go in and they come out. I'm not juicing these at all. I would not recommend Jordan Spieth at fourth, but there he is. Ben Griffin fifth. Patrick Cantlay sixth. Corey Connors seventh. Brooks Koepka eighth. Jacob Bridgman ninth. Taylor Pendrith 10th. Again, these are long-term projections. Look at 1 and 2 year windows. Not looking at the last few weeks. We have something to talk about that later, but this is kind of a who's who in this field in the longer view. If you take that information, you kind of look at the rest of this. Again, I think the value is horrible this weekend. I'm not going to spend a ton of time going over all this stuff. Just going to pick out a couple guys that might be interesting. Taylor Morris won here previously a couple years ago at 80-1, playing okay. Mac Meisner is getting some attention this week at 80-1. I like Marco Penge at 90-1. He played very well at Riviera. I can see why he could play well here. Lucas Glover has a thing for this golf course, and he is a fit here. And it's really hard to get behind because he can't putt. But maybe put $2 on it and hope something happens. Johnny Kiefer, I wish he were further along at this point, but he's not quite yet. But I do like where Tony Finau's game is kind of going. It's getting better. It's not where it needs to be, but it's getting better. Billy Horschel is a horse for course play. Does have a good history here. 100-1, I think, is worth looking at. Same with Matty Schmid, who's just been playing well in general of late. Blades Brown probably will get some attention this week because he played so well in Puerto Rico. Give himself a chance. He's basically playing for a card every week. Like that is his objective here. Non-member points he's trying to get to as well, trying to get in that top 70, top 100 somehow. That's what he's playing for. Maximum work, then back to the Corn Ferry Tour. So I think he's going to put in that effort, and I think he's playing well. Jesper Svensson's kind of interesting to me. He played pretty well in Puerto Rico. Again, I think he could be a star. He is such a good ball striker. But everything else. Well, maybe everything else doesn't matter this week. Another group of longer shot guys. Again, not a ton of names I love here, but I do like David Ford a fair amount. I think he's kind of interesting here, just because he showed some signs of decent play lately. Maybe a Luke Clanton just based on the ball striking, but that's probably it for him. And then you're getting to some really longer shot guys. Again, I just don't see a lot of value here. I really don't see in these longer shots. I know a couple years ago we got Peter Malnati. We'll mention his name a little bit later in the past champions category, but that is an exception, not the rule. It just is. So please don't go too far down here. Justin Lauer seems to like the place. AJ Ewart's made a lot of cuts. Everybody else on this list is really kind of struggling. I mean, I know people love Nick Dunlap because of the ball striking, but the driving is so bad. I just don't think he can do it here. There's too much in play off the tee that he has to get around to deal with it. I will say Patton Kizzaire's playing pretty well, all things considered. Got him into the players, right? His first alternate because of Brooks Koepka. Played okay. Not great. But if you were going to take any long shot on this page, it would be Patton Kizzaire at 500-1. And then your super long shots, 13 of them. Really none worth mentioning. Everybody's struggling. Not a good year. Don't look at them. They're just there to be part of the show. All right. If you take a look at Innisbrook's Copperhead course, and apologies, I had a head cold yesterday. I felt like I got hit by a truck. So that's why I didn't do the show yesterday. But, I mean, the big part of this golf course is the snake pit, right? Couple par threes. The general tenor of this golf course is you got to be able to work the ball. You can't be afraid to hit to tight corridors. You got to hit to certain spots. You got to be really exact with your irons. You could be on the wrong portions of greens. Greens are fairly big, but the way they're shaped, if you put yourself in the wrong spot, you're probably going to three-putt, or it's going to look really ugly. So this golf course isn't especially long. It's just really demanding with the way it's shaped. Can you do that for 4 days? And that's usually why par holds up pretty well here. It's really hard to do that for 4 days. And that's why typically in the last few years, you either get somebody out of nowhere, Taylor Moore, Peter Malnati, or somebody who's really good, like Victor Hovland and Sam Burns and Paul Casey before that. The horses for courses. So guys who have multiple top 15 finishes here in this tournament in the last 5 years it's been played. Lucas Glover, Adam Hadwin, Billy Horschel, Victor Hovland, Taylor Moore, past winner, Davis Riley, Xander Schauffele, Justin Thomas. So your real horses for courses are at the bottom of this, Xander Schauffele and Justin Thomas. They're really only the ones who have more than 2 top 15 finishes. Course fits, again, mentioned, it comes out in the wash where it looks like it's putting is a big emphasis. And that's how you get ball strikers in a really weird way. You get Victor Hovland, you get Taylor Pendrith, you get Corey Connors, you get Justin Thomas, you get Davis Thompson and Aaron Ryo. It doesn't make sense. I'm just explaining why it comes out that way. And then not as many hot hands. Not as many guys with multiple top 15 finishes the last 5 or 6 PGA Tour events played, because we've got that opposite field of Puerto Rico. So there's really 6 events in this group, but we're talking about 5 because you only played one of them, right? Akshay Bhatia, Bridgman, Castillo, Matt Fitzpatrick, Hisetsune, Hovland, Koepka, Schauffele, Schmid, and Spieth. So not all those guys are top 50 guys, but you're not hearing the names like Ben Griffin, JJ Spawn, Keegan Bradley. They're not playing well at the moment. That's why I think the value here is very difficult to assess. As champions, we mentioned them. Sam Burns back-to-back, then Taylor Moore, Peter Malnati, Victor Hovland. They didn't play this event the year before. Burns did his double. And then you had Paul Casey back-to-back for that one, before that. So Paul Casey hits the ball pretty hard. Sam Burns does too, but Sam Burns is a killer putter. Just had the ball striking working. Peter Malnati, not a long hitter, but just kind of had everything clicking that week. Victor Hovland, ball striker. I think this is a ball strikers tournament. Not as many people in the short-term form graphic set this week. So we're looking at players for 1.4 average strokes gained in the aggregate per round in the last 10 PGA Tour events played, whatever those that you played. Then 1.5 quality strokes gained, so that's strokes gained total multiplied by the quality of your competition as defined by the official World Golf Ranking. And then separately, whether you've gained at least 0.6 strokes on approach per round in those 10 events, whatever of those that you played. That's a separate metric that says, hey, you might not be doing the putting part right or the driving part right, but the critical part where you get the most of your strokes gained most weeks, that's good. That's in the right direction. So players on all three lists: Austin Smotherman, Brooks Koepka, you got Jacob Bridgman on 2 of the 3. You got Akshay Bhatia on all 3. You have Matt Fitzpatrick on all 3. Doug Gim and Zach Blair on the strokes gained total side, so they're playing the weaker competition. Same with Jeremy Paul, Rasmus Højgaard, a little bit weaker competition, right? Xander Schauffele's playing better fields, not gaining strokes so much, but playing better fields, so gets better value out of it. He's on the quality strokes gained list. Marty Dow. David Ford, I think, is interesting. That's why I think some people are picking up on him. The approach play is good. He's just a baby fawn out there. He doesn't know what he's going through. So he could win, but he could absolutely tense up in the headlights. I think that's interesting to see. And then just a couple more to go through here quickly. So strokes gained tee to green low variance. So I want to know whether you're gaining strokes tee to green consistently with a smooth curve. I don't want you to go up and down, up and down, up and down. I want to know that you're pretty reliable tee to green. We can figure out the putting thing. Brooks Koepka, Matt Meisner, Davis Thompson, Doug Gim, Victor Hovland, Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele. And there's Jesper Svensson again. I told you he'd be on this show one more time. So these are players that you expect to play pretty well tee to green every week, every time you see him out, no matter where you are, and then they'll figure out the putting part of it. And I think pretty much to a person, that's what this is about. Schauffele's not a great putter. Cantlay can be. Hovland's not. Gim's not. Thompson's not. Brooks Koepka sure as heck ain't, but when he is, he's really good. So keep that in mind this week. This one's really interesting to me on the last slide, which is, we talk about this for derivative bets all the time, but I want to know what percentage of the time in the last 50 PGA Tour events played, those that you played, did you finish in the top 20 more than 45% of the time? And last week, we had a lot of these guys, right? We had the best in the world, and we probably had, 16, 17 of those guys. This week, we have 3. Xander Schauffele, Bobby Mack, and Ben Griffin. Ben Griffin is not playing well. Bobby Mack and Xander Schauffele, you could argue, are. So if you're looking for derivative bets, I don't see a whole lot of value here in trying to pick this out. There's a lot of guessing that's going to go on this week, and I think this is a good representation of that, just knowing you don't have a lot of reliable finishers in this field. So this is a tricky week. As I said at the top, I don't see a whole lot of value in this week. It's kind of hard to marry what we just saw at the Players, what's expected here, and what the odds table tells you. And I don't know why that is. It's just the feeling that I get. So if you want to take some long shots, go for a Pat Gazire at like 500 to 1. But I think you kind of see some value in like a Brooks Koepka, maybe a Jordan Spieth, but the driving's terrible. Maybe a Victor Hovland, but he's too short. It's going to be hard to get behind really anyone that you love. So you might either hold your nose and bet like 10 guys for a couple bucks, bet nobody, bet a couple long shots and see what happens, or just skip. But I don't want you to waste your money here for no apparent reason other than to have a play this week and have something to look at. If you want to have something to look at, do a 72-hole bet between 2 players. Do a derivative bet on margin to wins, usually 1 or playoff. Those are interesting bets. Stuff like that. Just don't tie up a lot of money this week. Let's get past this and move on. But hopefully you have a good week. Hopefully you enjoy it. There is a full slate of other tournaments this week. So you've got LIV in South Africa. You've got the DP World Tour in Hainan Island, China. You've got the LPGA in Menlo Park, California. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. I think there's some interesting value there, but that's going to even kind of be hard to predict because a lot of these players haven't been playing the Asian swing. So we'll see about that. We've got the PGA Tour champions in Tucson, Arizona. Again, not a ton of value there. Really, maybe just a few guys to think about that aren't your absolute favorites, right? Between Zach Johnson and Stuart Singh. But we'll talk about that voice-only version of the show tomorrow. We'll go over that with you. If you have any questions, you can email me, ryan@thegolfnewsnet.com. Join Golf Newsnet for $40 for 1 year, $70 for 2 years, or $100 for 3 years over at golfnewsnet.com. And you can find me on social media, either at Ryan Ballingy or Ryan Ballingy Golf. And the handle is Golf Newsnet on social media. Thanks so much for watching. Good luck with all your bets on this tournament this week if you make them. If not, that's okay too. Save some cash for later. Or maybe start thinking about Masters bets. We'll start thinking about that even more this week. Really, in the next couple of weeks, we're getting close to the biggest tournament of the year and the biggest betting tournament of the year. Thank you so much for watching or listening, and we will see you next time right here on The Press.